Hey, do you know how to set the micro adjustment and utilize it on your depth setting on your router? In this video, I'm going to show you how and why. Of course, I'm using the festool routers to show micro adjustment. There's the 1010, 1400, and 2200. They're all plunge routers, and I utilize the micro adjustment with all of them. They're all quite similar, and I'll show you some of the nuances. The real beauty in here is the MFK 700 with the micro adjustment, and I'll cover that for depth as well. So the why part of it is the applications I have used micro adjustment and depth setting. But in the comments below, please leave the applications that you have utilized micro adjustment for depth setting in the past or what you're thinking of in the future. So thanks for doing that. I'm going to set the depth of the OF 1400 so I could talk about the micro adjustment. I'm going to give you some great tips and tricks. So what I want to do is what I call zeroing out the router. I'm going to release the depth stop rod, okay? I am going to take this spiral bit. Remember, this geometry of this bit, you got to be careful with it, okay? Because the 2 points are lifting the chip out. So, to zero it out, I gently touch down like this, and I lock the knob, and then I come over here, and the depth stop turret on the 1400 has a little ball joint in there, so if I want accurate depth setting, I'm going to push it down, the depth stop rod, and lock it in. Now, if I press down, okay, you're gonna see where I scratch here. What I wanna do is I wanna take it and bring it up ever so slightly so I don't hear a scratch. So if I turn this on now and I plunge, you'll see I'm not even cutting into the material of this melamine, and you know melamine's got that really thin surface. If I go up in the scale, each one of these clicks, you'll hear it, okay, is 1/10 of a millimeter. I had this at 5. If I go this way with it, down in the scale, I'm going to lift the rod up and have a shallower groove. But what I want to do is bring it back to 5 where I had it, and I will incrementally step through this to show you how fine 1/10 of a millimeter is for micro adjust. Okay, now the second pass. Okay, so this is 1/10 of a millimeter. And the only thing I can't control, which is kind of funny, is sometimes melamine has a little bit of undulation in it. But you'll see I'm just barely taking off the melamine coat. Now I'm gonna do 2 clicks. Okay, see how I'm going up in numbers? And then I'll take it another step. And I'll take it one more step. Now, I'll bring it back to 5. Okay? Okay, what I wanted to demonstrate here is I wish the video had feel-o-vision, but you can feel it incrementally get a little bit deeper by going up in numbers. And those are 1/10 of a millimeter increments. So it's a very precise, and it holds its accuracy because I went back to the 5 number. So I know it's confusing when you're looking at this mark here and which way to go for deeper or shallower. I was talking about these numbers as they're ascending, it's deeper, and descending, it's shallower. So what I like to do is pretty simple. I put a minus sign here, and that means I'm going shallower, and I put a plus sign here, and that means if I go this way, I'll go deeper. And I have these on my 1400 for forever. I don't want to shortchange you, but everything is exactly the same on the micro adjust as it is on the OF 1010, because it was recently updated. It's now got the click here so you could feel it. It's still 1/10 of a millimeter, so what I just showed you, we'll transfer this, but there's something wicked cool on it. You know how I do my plus and my minus? Guess what? That's built in with an icon, just like that. You could see which way you're going for shallower and which way you're going for deeper. That's how you set and utilize MicroAdjustment. But why do I use MicroAdjustment? Here's an application I've used it for before. In the comments below, please tell us how you would utilize it, or if you've utilized MicroAdjustment on the router, tell us your applications. We really appreciate it. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I wanna cut a large mortise into this 1/2 inch 12 millimeter melamine. So what I don't go by the scale. I think you've seen how I've set depth before. I always zero it out like this. Okay, I lock it down and I take a piece of the material. I'm going to utilize it and I push it down like this. So here is why MicroAdjustment for this application. I don't want to do the whole through mortise right away. I don't want to cut into my table if possible, or very little. So what I'll do is I'll come over here and I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I always go about a 1/2 millimeter shallower and then work my way up to it. Let's check it out. So now, if we look in here, you'll see I'm got a very thin veneer on the bottom, and I'm going to take it now 1/10 of a millimeter each pass, and you'll see how I finally break through. So that was just a couple of clicks, and wait till you see. I'm gonna pull this up. And you're gonna see, watch, look at this. Isn't this amazing? I could just break right through that and clean it up. Okay, and let's look at the table, the MFT, not a scratch on it. So that's a great application for MicroAdjust. Don't forget to leave your comment below. Just like the 1010 and the 1400, the 2200 has a lot of similarities with the MicroAdjust. It has this wonderful icon to show you which way to go for shallower or deeper, and it's a ball detented, so you have a little click system here to go back and forth. But there's a great feature on here that a lot of people don't understand, and I'm going to cover that now. Okay, let's talk about setting depth on a very expensive round over bit you just purchased. And this is the way I've always done it, where I take it like this and I kind of eyeball it like this. I lock it in, okay? And I make my first pass. All right, and I go, wow, let me set it a little bit deeper. And I go like this and I set it a little bit deeper. And I make my second pass right here. And then I go, I look at it and I go, I paid a lot of money for this. I'm going to get that maximum radius out of it. And I go like this, and I set a little bit more depth, and I end up with this little ledge here, or a little fillet. What do I got to do after that? If I don't want that, I got to sand it all out. And I want to save time. I want to make a cut, and my final cut ends up the maximum radius of that router bit I purchased. How do you do it? Well, I'll show you how. Okay, so this is your turret system and this is your depth stop rod, and you have this green tab. You're gonna notice right here, it's ramped here on the central post, and that is for the bottom setting. Now you have your different turret sets, so if you don't want to take the cut all in one, you could walk up to it. But I want you to notice right here that this bottom depth stop on the turret has two steps. This one here and this one with a point. This one here, if I utilize that one, okay, I could take my final pass on that bottom one because it's a 2 millimeter cleanup cut. Okay, and that'll help with tear out if you take too big of cuts, initial cuts. So the first step is to get the bit close to where I want it and lock it in. And you don't have to over crank this. There's a little line right here, and embossed in the handle is another line, so you don't have to crank it, you just have to put it past ever so slightly. So now that it is locked down in position, I'm going to take the depth stop rod and I'm going to put it on that little point, okay, and then take this green tab and rotate it in, and that locks that post to the turret. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the depth stop rod here and loosen it here. Do you see how it didn't pop up? That's because I got MicroAdjust right here, and I'll show you. So now I can adjust it from the top. You'll see this is sitting below the what? The plate here. And it's pretty simple. I'm basically saying that this here is my piece of wood, and I have the adjustment now down below here, and I can dial it in absolutely perfect. So as I turn this knob and bring it in, okay, see that? I am right where I need to be. If I keep going, you'll see where this actually starts to catch. See how that's catching right there? Okay, so now I back it away the other way, and you'll notice that right there I've maximized my profile, and I won't have any of those lines left over or fillets. Okay, so once again, I want to make sure that this is locked, right? Okay, it's nice and tight. All right. I want to now lock the plunge again and release this green tab. Get it out of the way. So you'll see I'm at the bottom, right, of the turret where the point is, and I can do this in a couple of passes, but that first pass I'll probably take it right down to the 2mm offset and then finish it up at the very bottom. Let's check it out. So that first pass was down to that 2mm offset. Let's look at the round over. So that was a wicked sharp bit. So there's little or no tear out on this maple. But let me show you the 2mm. So I'm going to release it, bring it down to that final setting that we know is perfect, and go from there. So let's look, and you'll see maximum profile, and there's, if we can get in here, you'll see the 2mm offset. So if I had tear out here, that cleans it up perfect. So just checking this out, I know I've maximized my profile of that round over bit, and there's no extra work to sand that little ledge out or little fillet. It's absolutely perfect. Hey, so let's finish up with the MFK 700. I showed you how to micro adjust it for edge banding with the horizontal base, but I want to take it a step further and talk about the micro adjust on the vertical base, and I've used this several times, and this is the application I use micro adjust a lot for, is when I'm doing inlay banding right here on an apron skirt. I don't want to have it perfectly flush. I want to create like 1/10 of a millimeter to be proud. So I micro adjust it in this groove right here. So now the only thing I have to do is just sand the banding flush and everything comes in absolutely perfect. So let's show you the setup. Okay, this inlay banding, okay, is a series of trial and error. So get some scrap wood, or you can actually use the back like I did to set up this video. Okay, and I'll show you how to micro adjust it so it's just slightly proud, 1/10 of a millimeter. Okay, so the thickness of the banding is basically 1 millimeter thick. So I'm going to get a rough adjustment on this base. So I'm going to take that 1 millimeter shim stock, and I'm gonna bring it in, and I'll set my depth so it's even with the tip of the bit. Okay, so that's pretty close, but let's do a dry fit here and see where we're at. Be very careful with this banding because it can split, but that is just about perfectly even. So what I want to do now is I want to micro adjust to make that groove a little shallower by 1/10 of a millimeter. That way there, when I put the glue, put this in, it's gonna stand slightly proud of my apron skirt. So the only thing I need to do is sand this banding or scrape it flush to here, instead of making it deeper and having to, scrape the whole apron. So one more pass and I think we get it nailed. So after loosening the 2 knobs, see this arrow right here? If I go this way, I'll go shallower, which this is the way I want to go, this way. If I go this way, I'll go deeper. There's the plus and minus. So the way I always line it up is, you see each one of these bumps on here? That's 1/10 of a millimeter. So I'm going to take that and I use this knob as a reference and I go 1/10 of a millimeter and then I lock it in. That will make the groove shallower and it'll be absolutely perfect for the inlay. Let's check it out. So let's check this out. Look at that, absolutely perfect, and that's just a hair proud. This is gonna be exceptional. Hey, so here we are at the end. Hopefully the applications hit home and how to set up all the micro adjusts on all the routers. I wanna thank you for your time. And don't forget, let's check out the comments below because I'm sure some of you have left applications that we can all learn from. And as we always say from the SedgeTool shop, be positive, stay sharp, and man, we mean wicked sharp.